I am sitting here with my good friend Susan Gerbic in Sydney, Australia. And Susan and I have been on a 3-month, 2-month speaking tour.
I think we're at a year now. I think it's a year and a half, 18 months now, I think. I think so.
50 countries?
Oh, God. My gosh, I lost count after Indonesia and Uzbekistan.
Oh. Uzbekistan.
Hi, everybody on Melanie's channel.
Hi, everybody from Susan's channel.
Well, whatever. We're here in Australia. Can you believe it? We're in Sydney, Australia. We're almost done with our tour.
Oh.
We're sitting in our kitchen. We have this most amazing kitchen they gave us.
Yeah,
we really spoiled.
We honestly really have. I mean, so what? The end of October, we started in Vegas at SciCon. And then
I had a break. You ended up coming over to New Zealand.
I did, actually, but fun story. My husband and I drove to Vegas. So I know. Well, I was doing some things in Pennsylvania and Nebraska, and our family's in Nebraska and Iowa. So we made the decision to drive. It is 39 hours each way. On the way there, it was more fun because, it was exciting. Like, because we're doing this really fun stuff. And then to get home, it was painful. And I'd like to admit that I'd like to say that I drove some, but really I didn't. Anthony did almost all of it.
Anthony's really amazing.
Anthony's amazing.
I tell him that every moment he has to fix something on my phone or something.
Yeah.
Anything technical.
Then you have to take your arms off the table. It's shaking. Yeah, I've noticed.
No, it was earthquake. We're in Sydney.
Oh. Well, then we better get out of this building.
No, I'm used to earthquakes. It's not a big deal. That was only like a 2.4 or something. It's no big deal.
I've never experienced one.
Oh my gosh. I'm from California.
We have tornadoes.
No, that's scary. Anyway, I'm sure everybody's very interested in hearing us talk about earthquakes and tornadoes. So, Melanie, what the hell are we doing here in this conference thing? What are we doing?
Well, yeah, so we were at the Skeptic Conference in Vegas, and then Skeptic Conference in New Zealand.
Yes.
And then Skeptic Conference in Australia.
Yes.
And along the way, we've done some other speaking gigs. So tonight we are at Skeptics in the Pub.
Right, in Sydney. Sydney, yes, absolutely. Sydney was a really fun, just absolutely. Oh, we haven't done it yet.
No.
It's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. And I've written a new talk that I've never done before because Melanie and Anthony have seen my talk like 1,600 times, I think, already. So I wrote one, and I'm not telling them what it's about. And it's going to be.
I still think it'd be fun to have you do mine and me do yours.
That would be hilarious. Yes, I think we should do that. So I am known as the Wikipediatrician. I run a Wikipedia editing team that is trying to change the world. We're trying to change all Wikipedia pages we possibly can concerning science, scientific skepticism, claims of the paranormal, and people of science in all languages possible. And I do all the training. We are on a secret cabal on Facebook. It's secret. So now you guys are in on the secret. You can join, but you have to pledge your firstborn child. No, I'm sorry. You have to do.
I will give my cat.
It's about 4 months of training, and then when you're all done, you'll be an awesome Wikipedia editor, and we'll put you to work, and you can get started. It's a lot of work. We've written over 2,000 pages. Those 2,000 pages have been viewed, or at least clicked on, over 153 million times. I think we're at 154 million. That's how long it's been since we've been on this tour.
Oh God, you've gone up
a million.
0.01.
Yeah, a million page views since we started this tour, and it's only been actually like 2 weeks. But I also am an investigator in claims of the paranormal of psychics and people who purport to be speaking to the dead. We call them grief vampires.
Yeah. First, yes, Wikipedia is reliable.
Yes.
Right. Just to clarify, definitely start at Wikipedia.
Use
the wonderful references.
Go to the citations.
But I know in the olden days, they used to teach people that
was the wild west.
And people would say, anybody can edit. You know what? Go ahead and try.
Yeah. Not anybody.
That will be slapped down right away.
Ouch.
And yes, so you do amazing work with vampires.
Yes, vampires. Absolutely. Don't look at my neck. Don't look too closely at my neck. No, grief vampires are people who prey on people who are vulnerable. And pretty much anybody can fall for some kind of scam. And it might not be grief vampires, but it might be a romance scam. It might be multi-level marketing scam. It might be insurance or a phone or people are vulnerable at different times in their life because they fall for something because they're bored, tired, they don't understand technology. Yeah, they want hope. They don't understand technology. They hit the wrong button, and now they're in a phishing scam, and you have to call your bank, and you're so embarrassed. But yeah, so we do. I really focus on advanced understanding of psychics, so my channel is called Psychic Sex Planed. Actually, it's Psychics Explained. But
although I keep telling her if she wants to make a psychic sex planed, that's probably will get way more views than the other.
Yeah, probably, but it's not that sexy. So we talk about what I do is I bring, and I'm always looking for people to give me videos of readings because personalized videos are really interesting because what you see is happening on those channels where you've got Teresa Caputo, John Edward, Tyler Henry, and all those people, the famous ones that you guys are used to. What's actually happening is those are edited, highly edited readings that you see. And there's a lot going on, but they're only going to show you the best because the TV show has it in the best interest of them to have it to be the best possible readings. So what we do is, I'll evaluate those, but what I really am interested in is those private readings that nobody's supposed to see because the psychic doesn't think that anybody's going to look at them.
Yeah, so I teach my students how to cold read, like just the really basics of cold reading. And often I'll have a student say, well, this one time I was at a psychic and there's no way they could have known.
No way.
Right. And I'm sure you've heard that.
I would have had my house paid off if I had $1 for every time somebody said that. And I owe a lot of money at my house. Yeah, they always say that. There's no way that I could have possibly have known that. But oh, absolutely. Most of the time, Melanie, and I looked over your article and it is really well written and it is accurate. It's a great primer on psychic cold reading 101. And it gets into a little bit into the medium, the not advanced, but the intermediate area. So it's really good. I could see using that in schools easily. It's well done.
Thank you.
And what I do on my channel is the advanced stuff.
Can you first explain the difference between cold reading and hot reading?
Well, okay, so people are looking at us right now on their computers or their phones or whatever. You're watching us. So you're making judgments about us. Hi, everybody. You're making judgments about Melanie and myself. You don't know me, but you're making judgments about me based on my appearance, my voice, my accent, my age. And so that's kind of cold reading. So if you were, wedding ring, I don't have one there. So, but you make judgments about where is that lady from? She doesn't sound Australian. How old is she? How old is she? Get off my lawn, kid. No, but
Are you religious?
Yeah, and all those kinds of things. So those are you guys
generalities.
Yeah, that's the word. Thank you for. See, we're starting to. It's a psychic connection we have from spending 1,400 years together. So what happens is with psychics is they make general statements, and you guys all do this too. We always do it with people. If you're getting on a bus and you got to sit down somewhere, you're trying to figure out who should I sit next to, who can I sit and it'd be safe, who could I sit with, for profiling. I guess that's what it is. So cold reading is kind of a profiling. In other words, the psychic is going in cold. They don't know. They don't know anything. But hot reading means that they've done some research on you. And so they've looked at your social media, or they know you, or somebody's told them about you, or there's lots of ways. And my specialty is hot reading. Most psychics don't hot read, you guys. Most psychics use wordplay. They use cold reading. And the sitter, that's the person who's getting the reading, whether they're sitting or not, they're called sitters. That person is motivated to get the reading. So they're willing to nod at things that aren't actually exactly correct, agree to things. Yeah, it was like if the psychic says German shepherds, the sitter is more likely to say, yeah, it was a dog. but they're in their mind, they're saying it's a dog. It's not exactly a German Shepherd, but I don't want to say anything, so I will just agree it was a dog. Maybe the psychic connection isn't strong. And so the motivated sitter is the real reason why the sitting seems to go so well, is because the sitter is just agreeing to everything.
Like if we are going to a psychic, especially to talk to a dead loved one, there are things that we want to hear. We also want there to be a connection, so we'll latch on to anything that sounds like that. Could be, yeah, oh, actually, yes, there was a dog.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there was a dog. I remember the story of the dog. Yeah.
And then the psychic may go, see, I knew that, and then go into that.
The dog, the
And then
German
the other
Shepherd.
thing is, like, we don't go to hear bad things about our loved ones, so they're not going to say, you know what, that guy was not a nice person, right? They're going to say, oh, he had a lovely sense of humor.
Well, you know, I have heard psychics say something about a positive thing about a mother or somebody who's passed away, and the person says, well, it doesn't really fit. She was actually kind of quite not so nice and not so friendly and whatever. And the psychic says she's changed.
Oh my.
She's changed.
So
on the
there's
other
the
side.
excuse making.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever they can say to make it fit is what she's changed. Or, she's the years you knew her as your daughter. Yeah, she was kind of rough and she was not quite as kind as she could. She really apologizes for that time. But before you knew her, she was actually quite a lovely person, very sweet, and now she's gone back to her natural way of being. She's actually a wonderful person.
So with my students, the reason I teach psychics is because, I mean, first of all, a lot of people believe in these kinds of things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a great way to hook students in and get them interested in what it is that you're talking about. And, in the real world, that's the kind of stuff they're face to face with. But importantly, it's important to be skeptical. And so, right? Nice necklace, Susan. Somebody that
my friend Melanie gave it to me.
So, she must be a lovely person.
I know. She just ignore all the things people say about her.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, definitely be skeptical. And being able to talk to the dead is an extraordinary claim.
Absolutely. No, wait. We can all talk to the dead.
Oh, having them respond.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary claim. I talk to dead things all the time.
But so the evidence for that should be more than something that can easily be faked.
Yes, but see, most people are raised in a belief system. They believe that there's life after death. That's just the way it is.
And importantly, I point out that I did not just disprove psychics. Right? I actually can't do that in class. No. It's really hard to do. However, the psychic is the one making the claim. So the psychic bears the burden of proof here. And the evidence that they're providing is almost always just something that can easily be, at various levels, be faked. And so, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I could see the future or know things, I'd be really rich.
You would be the most powerful person in the world. That's what my boyfriend Mark Edward is always saying. He says you'd be held in a bunker somewhere with wires coming out of your head, and nobody would know where you were, what was going on with you. And
because the government was using you for some sort of weaponry or something,
and learning how to clone you and make you into. Yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't be speaking at a Motel 6 somewhere and off a Highway 185 in Paducah, nowhere. No, of course they wouldn't. And nobody predicted or even told us anything about COVID. Or, I was thinking of this the other day. I'm here walking around Sydney. Went to a place that is a monument for World War One. Now, they call it the Great War. Do you know why they call it the Great War?
Because they didn't think there was going to be another Great War.
That's right. They didn't think there'd be another one. Nobody told them.
And yet.
Yeah, so they would have called it World War One. If they knew there was going to be a World War II. They
would have warned everybody and let us prevent that.
Or something, yeah, you would think, but no, and still psychics exist. But that's the idea, is that people need to believe.
And there it is. So again, back to the way that I approach this in class is that, like, I would love to be able to talk to my dead loved ones that have passed, right? I would love to be able to have that connection. Those emotions and that desire make me vulnerable to people exploiting me. And you might say something like, oh, well, what's the harm? And you are certainly able to go into
Oh
this
my
question.
God, the harm is horrible.
I always joke with my students that, at minimum, somebody charged you for that. And that's money that you could be spending someplace else.
Yeah, it's true.
But the harms could be so much greater than that. And I might even say, like, protecting part of your belief system from critical scrutiny is harm in and of itself. So I personally think there's empowerment from, well, thinking is power, one might say.
Oh, I heard that somewhere.
What a great idea.
Yeah, I think somebody was saying streaking is power too the other day too, but
That came from Richard Saunders.
Yeah, but thinking is power is better. Yeah, I think that's much better than
What
streaking.
are some potential harms?
Well, first off, you are being lied to. And once you're being lied to and you've accepted that lie, it's very hard to unaccept the lie. So if somebody says to you, your mother is watching over you and she is so happy. All that guilt that you are still harboring is gone. She has no ill will towards you for pulling the plug on her. And a lot of times it is pulling the plug or making the decisions that you made. So the guilt is gone and she loves you so much and she's watching over you and the grandkids, oh my gosh, she's watching them grow up. They never name the grandkids, by the way. She's watching them grow up and how they are in life and everything is wonderful. So how are you going to turn around and say, well, I guess that wasn't real? None of what she said. Apology. She didn't apologize to me. She didn't accept my apology. None of that is real. It was a lie. And it's an emotional manipulation that's cruel.
You know what? Something I've never articulated since my whole life until just right now.
Just breaking news, people.
Breaking news.
See it. We'll go across the breaking news. Melanie
I'm not going to be able
has
to
a great
live up to
thought. She has a great thought.
Well, I don't know how great it is. But I remember being taught about life after death and how like I was being watched over and so on. And then there would be times in my life I'm like, oh, so are they watching now?
Are they watching now? How about now? Yeah.
Not that I do things that you don't. Well, yeah, okay, we all do.
Well, also, okay. So somebody's great love. They say, "Oh, you're great love." Okay, the person's died. He was the love of your life. Okay, and then he's always watching over you. He loves you so much, and with the passion you can't imagine, and he's always watching you. I mean, how can you date again after that? How can you do anything after that? How can you, if mom and dad are always watching? You mean like always watching me? How can you? Do things.
Have bathroom time?
No. I mean, I was raised a Christian, Southern Baptist, and I was terrified of Jesus watching me. That creeped me out as a little girl. I can remember wanting to take a bath with my clothes on. I'm not kidding. I thought this is creepy. It's just not okay. It gives you a lot of guilt, right? And so I did a sting not so long ago. You guys can check it out. Look it up. It's called Operation Onion Ring. It's where a psychic reads all these little kids. And they're reading these children. And one of the children was a boy about 9. And he was told that his mother probably said that, we're going to have grandma on the line. We're going to talk to dead grandma. And the kid wouldn't get on. So they had to have his little sister who was 6. And she was the one they read for. But I'm thinking, what 9-year-old kid or a boy or 10, 11, 12, who's going to want to have grandma telling you everything because she's watching over you? And that's just going to get repeated to mom, who's right there. It's just not right, And I'm not even talking necessarily sexual, just saying mean things to other people, or you didn't do your homework, or you kicked somebody you shouldn't have kicked, or whatever it is, or you cheated on something, or you stole something bubblegum out of their backpack. Any of those things to a 9-year-old is going to be bad. And to think that grandma's just going to come on the screen right now with this psychic and tell you all that to mom, you're going to be grounded for the rest of your life. And traumatized. Thinking, he also said, the same psychic, he said in Operation Onion Ring, look it up, you guys. So he told this one boy, he says, I'm seeing like shadows and people, and there was one at the door. And I this is when his mother was alive. And so he says, he's being raised by his grandmother. And he said, yeah, there was this, I went to the door and there was a shadow person there. And then I ran and I got my mom. And then the psychic says, yeah, that's what it was. And if you lead a good life, and if you are kind to people and you do these things, that won't happen. The shadow people will stay away from you. So thinking about this child, it's a child. He was like 8, something like this, 7, something like that. Think about the guilt of always having to do right because the shadow people are going to come and knock on his door and come inside. And maybe the shadow people are what took his mommy away from him. I don't know. It's just terrifying. I mean, that's not healthy.
So I almost hesitate to ask you this question.
Go ahead.
What is the worst thing that you've ever heard a psychic tell somebody? Like the one thing that just made pissed you off more than anything.
Oh my God. The things they tell is, I don't know if there's a top 1 or 2 or 3. I had this one, and same in the Operation Onion Ring.
Because that was kids.
Yeah. There was a 12-year-old, and her mother was there with her because that's during the reading. And the 12-year-old was saying, I can't see my grandparents anymore, and I want to be able to see them. And you just knew that the mother sitting beside her badly wanted her to connect and be a medium. And she was saying, I can't see them anymore. And the psychic's telling her, well, you will. I see that you're going to be able to see them again. Just, do the lessons or whatever it was he was telling her. Just keep on. You'll be able to see your grandparents again. And she's crying, and the mother was like crying with her, and they were so upset because they were saying, so what's really happening is this 12-year-old is growing up and she's just moving on with her life, whereas the mother is still in her. The mother has this expectation that her daughter is going to be a medium, because who knows, maybe she was told she was a medium or who knows what. But so I'm watching this on Zoom, and I wanted so badly to reach out to her and just hug her and say, you are special. You are who you are. You are going to be the person that you want to be. Don't let your mom do that. And this expectation that you're going to be a medium, and it was really, really sad. And
what's the harm?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. These poor kids. And it isn't just the kids. I've heard medical advice from psychics. I had one psychic in Operation Bumblebee, which was, quite a ways ago, 2013. The psychic was on stage, and we were in the audience, and there was a woman sitting right in front of me. She was a fan of the psychic and went to a lot of the psychic things. And so she asked me a question. She said, so my husband needs a transplant, a heart transplant or some kind of transplant, and we're thinking of moving to Texas because he's been on the transplant list for a very long time. And the psychic she said, well, is that a good idea? And he said, first she said, where do you think you're going to go? And she says, Texas. And he says, yeah, that's what they're telling me. So she's like, okay, great. So she's going to go home and just take her husband off the transplant list in California and move to Texas based on what the psychic says, which you're not supposed to give any kind of medical information. I mean, that's serious stuff. And then I had another one for another sting I've done that I haven't revealed yet. It's called Operation Dill Pickle. I haven't revealed this yet, but the psychic was talking again. It's over Zoom, so it's a point where they don't know they're being recorded, and they don't know that I'm watching because they ain't psychic. And
but they think there's irony there.
Oh, there's so much irony
because they're telling people they're being watched, but they're being watched.
Oh yeah,
they don't know the difference.
So she was telling this lady. She says, "My kids want me to move. They want me to sell my house and move." And she says, "What do you think?" And the psychic said, "Well, your husband doesn't want you to sell your house and move. The husband being dead." And she goes, okay, that's what I was thinking. She says, it's not a good time you sell your house. You're not going to get a lot of money for it. She goes, okay, I won't sell my house. And we're watching going, I mean, why is she giving her financial advice like that? Maybe it's in the best interest for her to sell her house. Maybe she's in a bad neighborhood. Maybe the house is too big for her. Maybe the kids want her to be closer to her because her health is starting to deteriorate. I don't know. But the psychic, You know, this woman's going to go back to her kids and say, I'm not selling. Your dad wouldn't want me to sell.
You know, on a slightly related note, I remember my husband and I used to go to a place to work and have some coffee, and they had a sign. You know, they would always have upcoming events, and the sign was for a financial advice by astrological sign.
Mm-hmm.
That's not surprising. Surprising part is it was at the bank cafe.
Maybe it's not a bank like where you get money out of. Maybe it's a bank like a bank of a shore or something like a bank.
I'm not going to name the chain, but it is a very common chain.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it had nothing to do with like a bank of a.
No, it was a bank of a.
A bank of a.
Yes.
A bank of a. It's a bank of a. Bank of a.
Oh.
That's the name of the bank of a. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I'm telling you, there's money in this. There's huge amounts of money, and a lot of it's cash. So
I don't know about you, but I get accused a lot of being a shill for various things. Mm-hmm. And you know, the irony is that I'm trying to convince people to save their money, and the real money would be in fooling people with these techniques that I could so easily do because I know how the techniques work. Mm-hmm. Yet to protect that belief, people will accuse people who are not making money but wanting to save them from it. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, I see myself as a consumer advocate, and I think a lot of skeptics do too. We're trying to protect, we're trying to help them, we're trying to not have them waste their money, but yet they throw that back in your face all the time. Oh my gosh, you're evil. You're people are giving comfort. What's the harm in it? Oh, you're just making money off of it. And you're like,
and to clarify, again, I think it would be amazing to be able to talk to the dead. Right? Assuming that they don't want to harm people or whatever.
I know. I mean, but I wouldn't be talking to. Well, I would talk to my family, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I want to know if Agatha Christie's written another whodunit. I want to read what she's been writing because I mean,
I have so many questions.
I want to know. I want to be. She's probably by this time she's probably written like another 50 books, and I want to read another new Agatha Christie.
Transcribe. You know what? You should just claim to transcribe them. People would.
I couldn't write that well.
But the thing about skepticism, and I'm constantly trying to explain this, and I'm sure you are too. Skepticism isn't just no, that's not true, or I'm just going to debunk this. It's that's interesting. Let's figure that out. The evidence, does it support that or not? Being open to, sure. Like, are you open to psychics being real?
Yeah, I guess. If it would take a lot for me to believe it because I've seen the tricks and I've seen. You can't unsee it, as one of your students said. Once you know the tricks, it would take a lot.
So they would have to. If you knew that they were not fooling you, but they actually had good evidence that psychics are real, would you accept it?
Well, yeah, I would accept it if it was the consensus of science. I mean, if there was some method for it to work, I mean, if we had come to some point in our understanding that you could understand how that could happen.
Right.
I mean, yeah, of course I would accept it, but not if somebody just came to me with some good evidence, because it's going to take a lot more than that, because I know how easy it is that we can fool ourselves and how easy it is to find information on people that you don't think anybody else knows. I mean,
the Sagan standard, right? Extraordinary claims require
it would require a lot of evidence for me. It would be a consensus of science. I think would have to be the body of science would have to say, we have figured it out. There is this organ in the back of your brain we've never seen before, and we never knew what it meant or whatever. We figured it out, and actually it's like a little transceiver or something. I mean, something like that.
The psychic receiver.
It would have to be something like that. But we were talking last night about has there been anything that's ever fooled me?
Yes, and that was my next question again.
Okay. We're psychic. I'm telling you, we're linked. Oh my gosh. We live on the other side of each other as far as the coast goes, so I don't know how this is going to work. How far will the psychic connection go? I'm in California. She's like somewhere in someplace where it's cold. So yeah, there was this time. Okay, I know the psychic who hot reads. He can't hardly cold read. everything's hot reading, hot reading, hot reading, hot reading. So I was looking back on some um, audio he had done. It was a reading over the radio. So somebody's calling in and he's getting the audio, and I'm going and I'm breaking it down. And this is all on my channel, Psychics Explained. And so I've broken it down. Okay, so a lot of times what I do with these readings is I don't listen to them beforehand. I just put the video up, and then I take notes, and then I stop and I say, did you hear that? Oh my gosh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So during this reading, first is the audio of the first person, and it's cold reading, big time cold reading. I mean, it's awful, awful. All the tricks you can imagine, coins, and I'm seeing flowers, and is there a J name? Typical cold reading. So then the second reading was really accurate. And this was back, it was like something in 2014 or something like that. So it was a long time ago. And I focused on this same psychic, but more in the 2020s. And so it was like 2014. I was like, wow, that's really accurate. How did he do that? So I went back and I listened to it again, and I was thinking, he got specific names, he got dates, he knew how people died. Now, I did not believe that he was communicating with the dead, especially since I've known this guy and I've followed his career for years, and I've done probably 60 videos on him, and a couple dozen articles for Skeptical Inquirer on him. I know he's not communicating with the dead, but how did he get that? So I ended the recording and I said, I am flabbergasted. I don't know how he got this information. I don't know how he did it. This is 2014. It's some of the earliest work I've ever seen him do. And I put out the video and said, I don't know how it's done. I don't know how he did it. I know there's something going on. It could have been a guess, but it's really a good guess. And then I published it. And the next morning I woke up, and one of the women who follows my channel, she said, Susan, that was me on the phone. I'm like, what? She says, yeah, it was me. I was a follower of his, and oh no, it wasn't her. I'm sorry, it wasn't her. She was a little later on. She was another one, but she says, so he knew that I was going to be on the phone later, because he said, would you like to be on the phone and do a reading? And she said, yes. So when he gave her a reading, he already knew who she was. And she says, a lot of the other people who called in were people who he stooges. So he knew they were there. He knew they were going to be there. So that's how it was done. So I was surprised that he was doing it that early, but I guess he's always done it. I think his whole career has been hot reading.
One of the things that I make a point to tell my students is the importance of assuming a natural explanation. Yeah. So the psychic stuff is a supernatural explanation, and I suppose that is an option. But if you assume there's a supernatural explanation, you'll stop checking. So I talk about witches in my class, for example, and if my idea is that I got sick because you cast a spell on me, mm-hmm. then I'm never going to figure out what actually caused me to get sick, right? So if scientists, for example, said, witches are causing all these things, that we never would have figured out, like germ theory and meteorology and all of these other things. Mm-hmm. And so part of science's power is limiting itself to natural explanations, because then you assume you can find it and keep searching for it until you do. The moment you say it's a miracle, or God did it, or it came from whatever it is, the moment you do that, you give away your power of being able to find the answer.
That's a really good segment, a segue to your channel. Thinking is power. Mm-hmm. But no, it's true, absolutely, because I made another video afterwards, and I made the video with the screenshots from her email, because she sent me emails showing that day, which is the same day I knew what day it was, he had, and the day before, he was asking her if she wanted to be on the call. Mm-hmm. And so I had that, and I put it up as screenshots on my video that I did afterwards. And so I came back and said what the answer was. But absolutely, you're giving away your power whenever you accept these, marshmallows falling from the sky kind of explanations. Why would you go to something so outrageous when there's got to be a natural explanation? We don't know what it is, but there has to be one. Mm. And it's okay to say, I don't know.
It's okay to say I don't know.
I just don't know. Wow, that was weird. That
You
was
said
really
you
weird.
didn't know, and somebody helped you then find the answer.
Yeah, once I put it out there, because a lot of people have more knowledge than I do, and sometimes they have the knowledge that is personal information like that I wasn't privy to, and I hadn't really explored his early career. So I had thought, I didn't think he'd started out with hot reading. That just seems odd to me, but I guess, like I say, most psychics don't hot read. Most psychics do cold read, and they use word play, where they play around with the words. And, and the sitter is motivated, so they are trying to justify it. And going back to the German Shepherds, I did another reading with them. I followed another reading. I recorded it, actually, a whole session. I attended it in person. And the psychic pulled the woman up, and he did say something about that your father's over there with the dogs, and she's crying. And then he says, and something about the German Shepherds. And the woman was confused, sort of. And then she kind of nodded, yeah. And then, so what I did is I took the audio and I made a transcript of it. And once you have the transcript and you're looking at the transcript, and this is what I tell people, if you are going to go see a psychic medium, you have to at least get audio. Mm-hmm. If you're just relying on your memory, forget it. Mm-hmm. It's an emotional time and you're not going to remember. And there's so much, these people are so glib. They've done thousands, if not tens of thousands of readings. So they're smooth and it sounds natural. And so when I transcribed it, what I realized what he said was that your father's over there with the dogs, and the woman says yes. And then he said, what about the German Shepherds? And she kind of was confused. But when you saw it in black and white, you realize that those are two separate things he's saying. He's saying the dogs. He's not saying that the dogs were German Shepherds. He's saying there are dogs, and then something about what about the German Shepherds? And then so I started looking at it and I started thinking about it. And I went back and I looked. German Shepherds were one of the most common breeds. I think they were the fourth most common breed at the era that her father would have been alive. Mm-hmm. And then it was only during World War II that they were unpopular because they're Germans. But they were very popular before that and popular after that. And then, of course, German Shepherds are prolific. You see them in the police departments. You see them on TV. And what about a German Shepherd? Was the German Shepherd a pet? Was the German Shepherd the neighbor's dogs that scared you? Were you in some situation and the police had a German Shepherd dog? I mean, what about him? Yeah, what about the German Shepherd? We don't know. But it sounded like a hit, if it had been a hit, which is if he's playing the odds, that could have been a very powerful hit if she said, oh my gosh, they were German Shepherds and his name is Snoopy or something. I don't know. If she would have left that place saying he knew my dad had a dog that was a German Shepherd named Snoopy, when actually she's the one that said it.
Yeah, okay, because again, I'm pretty new to this stuff and tried to learn it enough to be able to show my students how it works. And one of the things that still astonishes me now when I see these readings is how much the psychic puts on the sitter to do the work. And you can see it in people. You can see them trying to make the connections and trying to make sense of it. And of course, if they're a psychic, why do I have to do the work, right? You're the one who's supposed to be able to tell me so, right?
It doesn't work that way, Melanie.
But they tell you, like, you got to do the work, blah, blah, blah. And then if you watch the reading afterwards, the person often has a completely different memory of what happened than what happened.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so they'll say, oh, they were so accurate. And they knew this, this, and this. It's like, well, actually, did they? And so, yeah, trusting the memory is, don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's also that feeds into a larger issue of people trust their memories in general, and especially with these really emotional events. It's disconcerting to think that you may not remember it as it was. Mm-hmm. But again, if your goal is to not let people fool you, then yeah,
you should probably, you should, and don't be overconfident, because even the tips that Melanie's on her really terrific article that she's written, that is basic to intermediate, really good instruction, but they still can get around you. I teach advanced mediumship I don't teach mediumship. I teach what it is they're doing at an advanced level. And even still, it's so much more complicated than you would think. And the more time that passes between the reading, as humans, we're embellishers, we're storytellers. So, the story is that and here's a good example. This is also on my YouTube channel, Psychics Explained. That this woman was recounting a story. She was a reporter years ago, and she said that she went to go do an interview of a psychic, and she went to the door, and the psychic opened the door and said, "Hurry up and get in here. Harold is here and he wants to talk to you." And she was blown away because Harold is her grandfather. And how did the psychic know her grandfather was going to come through? Okay, that's the story she tells. But the thing about it is that this has been years. She's probably told this story multiple times and it gets a good reaction. It's like what do they call it? Your party story. Let me tell you the story about the psychic. So what I think happened was that the psychic told her, "Who's Harold?" And the woman said, "Oh my gosh, that's my grandfather." And then the psychic responds, "He's here for you. He's been waiting for you here all day." Now, putting aside that the psychic knew she was being interviewed by this reporter, so she could have looked into it and found out who her grandfather's name was. I mean, just set that aside. But I think what's happening is the psychic said, "Who's Harold?" And she said, "It's my grandfather." And she said, "Oh, yeah." And so she misremembers it. And she says, after the fact, the psychic knew my grandfather's name was Harold. Yeah. But what actually, she was the one who said it. And then I went and did a little looking around. Now, Harold is not a very common name here in America. Well, we're in Australia. Well, wherever we are. Wherever we live. I just don't know how I'm familiar with the name Harold, but I don't know anybody named Harold. Do you know anybody named Harold?
I had a student named Harry once, and I assume it was Harold then, but that's all I got.
Possibly, yeah. So apparently, and I went and looked it up, in UK, they have this data name base. And I looked at the name Harold, and I figured out how old the reporter was and about how old would her grandfather have been. And it was the 14th most common male name in Britain at the time that her father would have been her grandfather. And all she said is, "Who is Harold?" Harold could have been, the guy who lived next door to, her pastor or Harold could have been a dog. It could have been a movie star.
It's up to you to make connections about this.
Yeah. And
what does this mean?
It could have been somebody living too. Just saying, "Who's Harold?"
Yeah. And then they would have said, "Oh, somebody I know is connecting with him." Yeah. There's always
a message for Harold. Yeah. They can't lose. They absolutely can't lose. And
unless you're skeptical.
Well, just don't go.
Or don't give them money.
I think it's a good idea that people go see a psychic. I think it's instructive. Or at least watch videos on my channel.
You know what? I'm really glad that you are doing this and fighting this battle. And I'm not going to recommend going to a psychic, but I will recommend going to Psychic Sexplained YouTube channel.
And people, if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, Susan Gerbic. It's Gerbic. You can also send me emails, susangerbic@yahoo.com or gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. Send me private message me. Tell me you're one of Melanie's friends.
Great articles for Skeptical
Inquirer. And I'm really looking for more video. I want video or audio of your personal readings that have been done. I can do it and not reveal who you are if you're embarrassed, which most people are. And I want to listen to them and I want to evaluate it. And then I'd be happy to interview anybody who's had experiences. But, I'm going to be blunt and tell you what happened. I'm not going to play the game of, "Oh, yeah, maybe it is a psychic." No, I'm going to say what I think is really going on. And some people who get the readings, I've had people give, one woman gave me a reading. She says, "I don't know if you can explain this." And the odd thing was she was an atheist. And I thought that was very strange.
Interesting.
She says, "How can you be an atheist and still believe in life after death?" I'm not quite sure. But she said, "I have a reading. I'll let you listen to it." And I said, "Okay." She says, "I have to get it off the cassette tape."
Oh.
So that's how long it's been.
Wow.
So she got it off the cassette tape, put it in an MP3, and she sent it to me. And I listened to it and I was transcribing it as I was going. And I said, "You were in the room with the psychic. It's not just an audio like over the phone or something." She goes, "Yeah, I was there." I said, "Because I'm getting a lot of things he's saying about you that are physical, that her skin. She's from the Southwest, like Arizona, living in like a not a transient, but like a mobile home on the desert kind of life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking she's probably very sunburned and has that look about him and lots of turquoise and and belt buckles and stuff. Anyway, I got that impression of her, and as I went through it, I said, what do you remember about this? She says, I was blown away. There was no way this guy could have known all this information about my ex-husband and about this and about that. And I said, well, you gave him all that information. Here it is in black and white. I'm looking at it, and she said, I had no idea. And she was saying when she gave it to me in a format that I can listen to over the computer, she says, I haven't listened to this in years. And she says, it's not as much as it's not what I thought. I was really remembering it differently. And I said, okay, but I'm still going to listen to it. And that's when I said, there's a lot in here that is you're telling him. And if you're in person giving feedback to him, just like you're nodding your head right now, you can't, we're humans. You can't just sit there stone-faced. And if you do sit there stone-faced, the psychic's going to say, I'm not getting anything, and let me give your money back. I'm sorry, the spirits aren't with me today or something. So, I mean,
what a great example of not trusting your memory. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And I thought to myself, if you haven't heard this in years, why are you still blown away? Because if somebody was giving me a reading that I believed that they were in contact with dead people, I don't think I would leave their side. I think I would be sleeping outside on their porch. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine somebody having that kind of knowledge, and then I'm going to just like go home and years later and never get a second reading.
Oh yeah.
And never write to the public and just stand on a soapbox saying this person's amazing. I don't understand that attitude, but lots of people do because they think it's normal and natural. We're all raised, and a lot of the people here are watching this right now on TV, ghost hunters and outer limits and all this. Yeah, that's normal to us. We don't even think about it. You don't think about that there's a cameraman right there. Well, there isn't right now. It's just us. But I mean, in most of these TV shows, there's a room full of people there. Somebody with the sound, somebody with the audio, script writers. They don't realize that it's not an intimate conversation between two people.
It's almost like you shouldn't believe everything you see on TV.
Oh my gosh, especially reality TV. Reality TV is the opposite of reality. Yeah, it's nothing like. So all that stuff you see, the ghost hunting programs, all that stuff, it's edited, it's heavily edited. The people who are editing it have a vested interest in having it have a second season and a third season. They're not there to make it's not a test. Yeah. They're not trying to test the psychic or the ghost hunter. They're going to do everything they can to make the object move or the door close or the creepy sound I mean, come on, you guys, we got to grow up. We got a lot of mess out there in the world, and we got to stop believing these fairy tales. It's just silly. Anyway, we talked a long time.
Yes. Well, thank you.
So yeah. I hope people contact me. I hope that
definitely follow her on social. She's amazing.
It's a lot of fun, what we do, and it's been a blast being here in Australia and New Zealand.
I'm going to Susan withdrawal in a couple days.
You can watch the video. You can just watch the video over and over. You can say, "There's Susan. She's crazy. She's something wrong with her. She's sitting in somebody's kitchen in some place." And we decided to turn the camera around, so we have this fabulous curtain. Don't look behind the curtain.
She's dressed like it's February in Massachusetts.
Don't look behind the curtain, people. The camera, we had it the other way around. It was this kitchen behind us. And I said, nobody wants to see that kitchen. There's nothing there. There's no art, no flowers, nothing. It's just like
just get to see her
like a hotel kitchen. Oh yes, it was beautiful. I from what I understand, she's gonna put a filter on me. Make me look like I'm 25. I'm actually 110. No, I'll be 110. I'm not yet. No, I will someday. Maybe. I hope. I don't know. You guys can always talk to me. People of the future. Are you watching this in 2036 or something? 2067?
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Bye, all.